capping off an astonishing political comeback. Trump dismantled the so-called blue wall, seizing on the economy and immigration to stifle Kamala Harris's abbreviated campaign. Let's take a closer look at his road to 270, and we can see it right there. You see the Electoral College map, all those red states for Trump, the blue states going to Kamala Harris. Right now, Trump has 276 Electoral College votes. You need 270, so he will be the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris, with 223 Electoral College votes right there. You can see it, what's going on. In the popular vote, Trump also wins, and this is significant. The popular vote, he's got 51%, Kamala Harris 47.4%. This is with 89% of the estimated vote is in. He's up by more than 5 million votes. He has more than 71 million votes. She has more than 66 million votes. So Trump wins the popular vote, wins the electoral map, a major, major win for the former president of the United States. By the way, there are still several battleground states still uncalled. Stand by for a key race alert. All right, take a look at these states. We're still counting votes in these states. In Michigan right now, 15 electoral votes. With 98% of the estimated vote is in, Trump is ahead, 49.8% to 48.2%. He's ahead by some 93,000 plus votes in Michigan. In Arizona, with 11 electoral votes, 63% of the estimated vote is in. He's ahead 51.9%. He's up by a little bit more than 100,000 votes in Arizona. In Nevada, Trump is ahead there as well. 88% of the estimated vote is in. He has 51.5%. Kamala Harris has 46.8%. He's up by nearly 60,000 votes in Nevada, which has 6 electoral votes. I want to walk over to Phil Mattingly at the Magic Wall to get a little bit more on how he got to this historic moment.
Yeah, well, if we knew going into last night, there were 7 battlegrounds. There were 7 places Donald Trump and Kamala Harris were really fighting over for the path to 270. And we knew both of them had multiple paths. The path we didn't get into a lot as we're kind of walking through the different options was a path that looked like this. The entire blue wall turned red. Both of the southeastern states, North Carolina and Georgia, red. Arizona, Nevada, red, 747. That's where things are heading right now. We obviously haven't called several of those races, but Donald Trump is over 270 electoral votes. And I think the big question going into the night, Wolf, was could the coalitions that Joe Biden put together to win in 2020 to take back the blue wall states that Donald Trump had won in 2016, flip Georgia, flip Arizona, potentially flip North Carolina? Could Kamala Harris and her campaign match up with that? We got an answer fairly early on, and I think I can slice and dice, Wolf, every single county here and tell you what did or didn't happen, who overperformed or who underperformed. Let me just put it like this. In the counties of Pennsylvania, where did Donald Trump overperform his 2020 margin? Every county but 5, including all of the Democratic strongholds. And Wolf, when I say Democratic strongholds, we're talking about right here in Philadelphia County. He flipped Bucks County, one of those collar counties. These collar counties as well that Joe Biden really used to drive his victory back in 2020. All but these 5 counties right here, Donald Trump overperformed his 2020 map in every single one of those counties. What about Vice President Harris? Well, where did Harris underperform? What Joe Biden did in 2020. Pull that up. All of the counties you see lit up, red or blue, are places where Harris underperformed Biden's 2020 result, including in those critical Democratic strongholds, Philadelphia, into the collar counties, including Allegheny. Now, it wasn't an underperformance by a significant margin, particularly in those strongholds. But Wolf, these are the areas that the Harris campaign said they needed to not just match where Joe Biden was in 2020, they needed to try and bump up to make up for what they knew would be a strong effort by the Trump campaign. One last point.
Get the House.
Tying to all this, and not just in the 7 battlegrounds.
Thumbs up for Trump.
Wolf, where did Donald Trump overperform in the entire country compared to his 2020 results? Every single county you see lit up, red or blue, across the country, granted still counting out west, Donald Trump did better than he did in 2020. It's not just a blue wall
Trump did
or
better all across the board
Sunbelt state or out west. It is the entire country. Donald Trump did significantly better than he did in 2020, better than he did in 2016. And it is a scaled victory I don't think
doesn't
anybody
get the House,
expected,
it doesn't
even
matter.
a very confident Trump campaign.
It'll be
Wolf.
just
Yeah,
like
and
last
it explains
time.
why he
Won't
not
get
only won
anywhere.
the Electoral
They'll hold
College
him
vote, but also
hostage,
the popular vote,
Exactly.
which is very significant as well. 89% of the popular vote
We
is
don't
in,
need another
and he's
Pelosi.
ahead by almost 5 million votes over Kamala Harris. Very significant
I bet
indeed.
you Pelosi's
He's going to be
gonna
very proud of
unretire.
that. It's not often
Done
that a
eating ice
Republican
cream.
presidential candidate wins the popular vote, even after that candidate wins the Electoral College vote, but Trump has just done so. Phil Mattingly, thank you very much. While Republicans will now control both the executive branch as well as the U.S. Senate, control of the House of Representatives is still unclear. CNN's chief congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, is following all of this for us. So what's the
52
latest,
to
Manu?
42.
Yeah, Wolf, the Republicans do have control of the United States Senate. Remember, they just had to net one seat if Donald Trump were to win the presidency. They picked up 3 last night. Right now, the Senate is at 52-42. There's 3 pickups. Those are in 3 states: West Virginia, Montana, and Ohio. Now all in the Republican column. Those used to be Democratic seats, but they could potentially grow their Senate majority as well.
They've
They
been
are
saying
leading
that
right
all
now
day,
in
and
2
none of them
states
have been
at the
growing,
moment.
really.
That is in Nevada. That is also in Pennsylvania.
sweeping
Republicans
all
could
of them.
potentially get up to 54 seats in the Senate. There are a couple
They
others we
tried to-
still
they
have
tried
not
to
called
get the
yet in purple
population
states like in
areas.
Wisconsin and
But Trump
in
was like, you know what, I don't need the population areas.
the Democrats
I'll get
right
all
now
the
currently
rural
have an
areas.
edge in.
Like they've
Potentially
been
we'll
saying
see
all
what
night.
turns out
They
there, but
focused on
the
that
Republicans are
rural.
feeling very good about the Senate. So
Small
where do
town
things
vote.
stand about the potential of Democrats having any power in Washington? The United States House is the big question at the moment. 204
to
seats the
182.
Republicans have. They've picked up 5. Democrats have picked up 2. They have 182 seats. Remember, they had to net 4 seats to
Ain't
take
gonna
back
get
the United
nothing.
States House. And right now, they are not on
Goodbye,
path
Democrats.
to do that. Right now, Democrats
are
are leading
done.
in just 5 Republican
Republicans'
districts.
time
That is the way this is complicated is that
Democrats are done.
Democrats are trailing in some seats as well. There are 3 seats Republicans are leading
They're gonna be
in
out of
Democratic
the House.
districts, which shows you the
No
complication
more
that they
Democrat
face in taking back the House majority. Now, let's drill down into why the Democrats are struggling,
Don't forget
unable
to
to,
hit that
at the
thumbs up
moment,
for Trump.
get there. Don Bacon,
Thumbs
this is
up
a
for
seat in
Trump.
Nebraska, a seat in which Joe Biden, a district he carried pretty easily, Kamala Harris carried last night. Democrats thought that this would flip
Bacon and Vargas.
this cycle. That at the moment is not happening. Don Bacon, the incumbent Republican, he is ahead by 8,300 votes against the Democratic challenger, Tony Vargas, in that 2nd congressional district in Nebraska. There's 95% of the vote in. Republicans feeling very good about that seat.
I'm
There are a couple
sorry,
other
but
key
Biden
seats in
ruined it for the
California, which
Democrats.
Democrats thought that they could pick up. John Duarte, the incumbent
ruined it for
Republican,
the
he is ahead by 3,100 votes against the Democratic challenger, Adam Gray. 48% of the vote is in. Still more vote to count, but at the moment, Republicans are feeling pretty good about that seat. And also
What's the
another
next
seat
part, guys?
in California as well. This is with Congressman
I
Mike
actually might
Garcia.
have a
He is
job.
an incumbent, someone from the Southern
Stefan.
California, from the Los Angeles area. Democrats had high
have
hopes of
2
this
possible
Biden
jobs.
district to flip. But at the moment,
Publix
Garcia
and
is
Bells.
ahead by 5,300 votes against his
finished my
Democratic
interview with
challenger,
Bells today.
George Whitesides. There's still some vote coming in. 65% of the estimated vote is in. There are still some pickup opportunities from Democrats, including in New York. One of them, the ones we're looking at, is on Long Island. Anthony D'Esposito, the Republican incumbent. He's a freshman there. He is trailing with his Democratic challenger by 6,100 votes. There is 92% of the vote in. Perhaps Democrats could pick that up. But as you can see, this is complicated. There's so few
they keep on
districts that
pushing
are
for the
truly
Democrats.
at
I've
risk
noticed a
of
lot of the
flipping.
time the
Republicans
news
could pick
people are
up
like,
some.
"Let's get the
Democrats could
Democrats,
pick
the
up others.
Democrats."
Can they get their net of 4 seats? It is a very complicated path at the moment to get 218 seats for the Democrats to pick up control of the House, which is why the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, put out a statement, Wolf, this morning saying he's confident the GOP will retain power in the House.
We'll keep a close watch on those remaining seats. Manu Raju, thank you very, very much. My colleague Aaron Burnett is standing by with more campaign reaction. Aaron.
That's right, Wolf. And just going through those numbers, still things we don't know, but obviously the picture here of what we're looking at is starkly clear. We are standing by to hear from Vice President Kamala Harris. Obviously, she did not speak last night. Source now telling us she will deliver her concession speech this afternoon at Howard University, and this will be the first time that we will hear, see from her since she lost to Donald Trump, a night that, of course, she thought would go very differently, that Trump seemed to think could go very differently. Priscilla Alvarez is just outside the Harris campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C. Elena Train is outside Trump's campaign headquarters this morning. So, Priscilla, first to you, What do you know about just what's gone on in these past few hours in the inner circle of that campaign, where we had all heard their view? They'd been public. They were confident. They thought, David Plouffe said, they thought they could win all 6 or 7 swing states. And yet here we are.
Aaron, I've been talking to allies of the vice president and sources close to the campaign over the course of the morning, including in the early morning hours, and they are in a state of shock and disbelief. Just to give you a sense of some of what I'm hearing, one source telling me that they're...
Oh, fast forward a little bit. It'll take a little bit for it to catch up. Not much further, just about 50 seconds. So yes, if you're still Teflon, are you still Teflon? Still there?
Actually, projecting optimism and confidence in those final hours leading up to election night, feeling as though they could pull some of those undecided voters to their side. And of course, finger pointing has already begun, because part of this strategy also included bringing in disaffected Republicans who they believed were fatigued by former President Donald Trump, as well as trying to lock in parts of their coalition where there had been waning enthusiasm. But the numbers have shown they just were not able to accomplish that, including in some of those red rural counties that they had banked on peeling off some of those Republican votes. Now, as you mentioned there earlier, the vice president will be speaking at 4 p.m. at her alma mater here at Howard University. She is also expected to call former President Donald Trump ahead of that speech. So certainly, Aaron, a lot of work going on behind the scenes to work on those remarks.
Yeah, absolutely. You can only imagine that phone call, right? You know, he came out just the other day, right? Low IQ, all these things, and to have to pick up the phone and make that call. These are, of course, I think at these moments to remember, human beings. Priscilla, thank you very much. And let's go to the Trump campaign now, where Elena Treen is in West Palm Beach, Florida. And Elena, here's the thing. It appeared from everything the Trump campaign was signaling, the way he was acting himself, he didn't think he would win. Then he came out and won. And he didn't just barely win. He won in a landslide. So how does this adjustment sink in? And what do his next few hours look like? Well, you're certainly right, Aaron, that, heading into yesterday, Donald Trump's campaign kept saying they were cautiously optimistic, but behind the scenes, there was a lot of uneasiness. They expected the race to be incredibly close, and they were not expecting it to be called as soon as it was. When I talked to some advisors soon after most of the networks, including ours, had called it for Donald Trump, they said that they were obviously excited, but also relieved, again, because they had not anticipated that it was going to come so quickly, particularly those crucial votes in the battleground states. Now, as for today, I'm told Donald Trump is laying low for the most part. We know that he's been taking calls with a series of people who've been congratulating him. One thing to note about that is that we've heard, clearly we've seen foreign leaders publicly reach out and congratulate him over online, but they've also been calling him, as have CEOs. And Donald Trump's campaign is very closely tracking who was reaching out and when, because remember, Donald Trump values loyalty and many times above all else. And so this is something that they are watching very closely throughout the course of this day. Yeah, of course. Even watching the world leaders, so you think about what people said, what they thought, and now what they're saying. How does he manage that? I mean, so much is resting on how he manages that for the whole country and the world. Elena, thank you very much.
For all these corrupt politicians.
Aaron, thank you. My team of experts is here with me right now. MJ Lee and Gloria Borger. MJ, you're our senior White House correspondent. I understand you're working your sources, getting some new information. What are you learning?
Yeah, Wolf, obviously there's going to be a lot of soul searching and asking a lot of questions in the coming hours and days about what, if anything, could Democrats and the Harris campaign have done differently. One thing that we are clearly already starting to see take place is finger pointing and the blame game. And a lot of that is going to be directed at President Biden. And this is even coming from some folks inside of the Harris campaign. One senior official I just talked to said Biden will hold a lot of blame for it. And frankly, they said he should. One of the ways in which he is being blamed right now actually just goes back to the simple decision of seeking a second term and re-election in the first place. Remember, back in 2020 when he was running, he had initially said, I plan on being a transition and a bridge president, and of course changed his mind ultimately and said, I'm the only person that can defeat Donald Trump. I have more work to do, and ended up seeking a second term. And then when his performance completely blew up at the CNN debate over the summer, he had no choice. Ultimately was forced to get out of the race, and that's why we ended up having this very truncated Kamala Harris campaign in the first place. And Democrats are looking back on all of this and thinking, what about that parallel universe where Joe Biden had not sought a second term, and there had been a full Democratic primary contest where the party actually chose whoever they thought was going to be the strongest person to run a full campaign. Again, I think just one of many ways in which Democrats are going to be asking themselves the tough questions. A lot of tough questions are going to be aimed at President Biden.
A lot of tough questions indeed. Gloria, let's talk a little bit about what was going on, some mistakes that may have been made. The Harris campaign focused heavily on abortion rights for women, as you know, focused heavily on the threat to democracy, which they kept referring to. But the CNN exit polling results, which came out overnight, showed that it was the economy, more specifically inflation, that was a decisive issue for voters out there. Nearly 7 in 10 described the economy as not good or poor. 75% said inflation had caused their family hardship in the last year. So was this a miscalculation on the part of the Harris campaign?
Well, look, as MJ was saying, I think that Kamala Harris had this albatross around her neck, and it was Joe Biden. And she had a very difficult job separating herself from Joe Biden. In the exit polls, you see that 80% of Trump supporters say that they were worse off than they were 4 years ago. So the economy was a major issue. She tried to say, look, here are my plans. But I think a pivotal moment was on The View, when she couldn't distance herself from Biden and couldn't think of anything that she would have done differently. I mean, this is a moment in this country that one source described to me this morning as a rolling realignment, where you have these disaffected voters who are upset because they're not doing as well as they were doing 4 years ago. And it is not based on race, it is based on class, because Donald Trump has brought in all these new Hispanic voters and black voters, for example, and the Democrats are left being the party of the elite, which they feel has nothing to do with them. And so she had a tough job, and she had to do it in just over 100 days. And, looking back on it, that might almost seem like an impossible task.
Very difficult challenge indeed. MJ, you're a White House correspondent. We know that Kamala Harris is going to be delivering a speech at her alma mater, Howard University, in Washington, D.C. later today. Do we know if she's planning on calling Trump to congratulate him in advance of that speech?
Yeah, as we've reported, that phone call is likely to happen before she actually addresses the public. I mean, remarkable that there was a whole election night party essentially set up at her alma mater in Washington, D.C. last night. She ended up not making that appearance, period. Really reminds you of actually the 2016 Javits Center setup where Hillary Clinton was supposed to appear. Everybody thought that there was going to be a celebration, and ultimately John Podesta ended up coming out to tell the crowd it's time to go home. We can't call this race yet. It is going to be very, very interesting to watch what tone the vice president takes as she publicly concedes this race, again, presumably after having done that privately in that phone call to Donald Trump. Remember, Donald Trump is somebody that the vice president recently referred to as a fascist. She has minced no words when talking about Donald Trump and the threat that she believes he poses to the country. And now here we are, the day after Election Day, and we know that this is the man that is going to return to the White House. So how does she talk to a big segment of the country and the population that is going to be completely devastated by the thought of another 4 years of a Trump presidency?
It's the popular vote as well. I mean, we're not just talking about the Electoral College anymore. It's quite an achievement to win both. That hasn't happened in a while. And so, she has to recognize that, that they got whomped, and you have to go back and look at why. And I think it's always a very difficult thing for campaigns to do, but the Democratic Party
put
writ
everybody in
large,
one
has a
group.
lot of thinking to do about what the
People are
American
people.
public thinks about it.
Yeah, she referred to Trump as a fascist, but we all know the way he was talking about her, low IQ and all that kind of stuff as well. So let's see what happens in the course of these next few hours, guys. Thank you very, very much. Stay
think
with CNN.
people like
Our special
Trump's
coverage,
media.
Election Day in America, continued, is back after this short break.
I will speed it up. I'm gonna get through the commercials, guys.
I could never hate my kids, you guys. I could never hate my kids.
Nope.
With that said, I hate how they roll dice. You're coming in too hot! I hate when they wake up in the middle of the night. Bad news!
Membership on Max.
I hate how much they talk about lava. The only thing I know about lava is if they see it up close, I've done a bad job as a father.
Too long.
At Total Wireless, we got your back every day. Others, not so much. Just look at the facts. We run on the network with America's fastest 5G speeds. They don't. Back them. We give you 50% off the total 5G unlimited plan. That's only $25 a month for one line. Not them. Back them. We locked your price for 5 years. They don't. So back those guys, right? We've got you covered. Get the facts. Then switch to Total Wireless.
By the way, I'm doing a whole thing.
At Harbor Freight, we
Whenever I
design
get
and
to
test our own
revenue.
tools and sell them directly to you.
I'm
No
going to
middleman,
actually
just quality tools you can trust at prices you'll love. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
And I'm gonna put him on a piece of paper, and I'm gonna hold this piece of paper, and we're gonna do part of the drawing. I have a glass blowing feature, so if you like that art, I'm eventually gonna be doing drawings on this.
Come see how much more a vacation can be with Norwegian Cruise Line. Experience more at sea.
Eventually, I'm gonna be having drawings, but I gotta get past
Amazon
500
early holiday
subscribers.
deals are here.
I gotta start making
With
these
everything
songs.
you need to kick off the season. Shop Amazon early holiday deals now.
So about
Say you're
3
looking for the
minutes of
perfect
that
present.
is how normal.
Head to the perfect
ads
place.
normally work.
A place with gifts that light up a face as well as a room.
I think we're on about a minute.
Where
and
it's
a half
easy to
now,
find the brands they'll love and the advice you trust. That place isn't a warehouse store. That place is your
We still
local Ace.
haven't had
Around the block,
Thanksgiving.
what you
We're
need in
having
stock.
Christmas
With service so good it's guaranteed.
And
This Christmas,
where's
get
the
free
turkey?
assembly and delivery on your new grill at Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Sorry for that.
Wish I could host without burning the turkey.
Join the club.
So much ice in carpal tunnel.
Puppies in the oven, step away from the knife.
I want to invite more people, but it's so expensive.
Spend less on food and invite your second cousins twice removed. Less time cooking and more time familying. Join the club.
I'm losing.
Feed 10 for
people
under
to that.
$100 with a meal that heats up within 2 hours. See site for details.
I think I have the same 3 people.
Forgive
that
me, I've
have
never been
here
one
the
for
whole
speeches,
time.
but I did want to say a few words. You don't mind. Wow. I believe the last time we were all together was my father's birthday, 10 years ago.
I'm still
I'm sure you all
stuck
remember
on
that night.
ads. It's an ad for the Penguin.
I know I do.
Which kind of looks like the same guy that plays in Batman.
Non so davvero come fare. Nino. Nino, io sono incinta.
In questa vita tragica. È stata una fortuna che stavamo insieme.
Please tell me it's the last ad. Please tell me it's the last ad. I think it's the last ad. It says we'll be back in a moment. Come on, CNN, get back on. People want to hear about the debate. Not the debate, the campaign trail. said that once, you're saying it again. You couldn't figure out an ad to put in, so you said it twice. We will be back.
All right, welcome back. Rural voters and Latino men delivered big for President Trump last night, propelling him back to the White House. And the former president built on his support, making significant gains with these two groups most notably. So let's go now to Harry Enton, digging into the exit polls. Harry, when the exit polls first started to come out, you know, there was the usual caveat. This all was in there, but it's sort of, well, you don't know what this really means. You don't know if it's going to pan out. In this case, of course, it very clearly did. So looking in them, doing the deep dive, what stands out now?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned rural voters right off the top. You know, we knew that Donald Trump was going to do well with rural voters. I think it was surprising how well he did with rural voters. Look at this margin. We're looking at a 27-point win for Donald Trump among rural voters. That is a double-digit improvement from how he did with them back in 2020. Of course, you also mentioned Latino voters. Let's dig in among Latino voters. Specifically, we're going to dig in among Latino men. Look at this. I want you to note here, Donald Trump won among Latino men. Why is that so impressive? Aaron, I went back in the exit polls the last 52 years, all the way back since 1972. And granted, I am a little bit tired, but I believe that this is the first time that a Republican candidate for president has carried Latino men. Donald Trump was the one to do it. Let's look at state level data regarding Latino men, because I think this also gives you an understanding that Donald Trump didn't just do it nationally. He didn't just do it in one state. He did it across the nation. So Latino men in the state of Florida, look at this margin for Donald Trump, 29 points. Why is that so impressive? 4 years ago, Joe Biden carried Latino men in the great state of Florida, but it wasn't just in Florida. Let's go across to Texas, because again, here it is a similar story. Look at this margin, a 29-point win for Donald Trump among Latino men. Again, another state where 4 years ago, Joe Biden carried Latino men, and this time around, Donald Trump did, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, and those numbers, I mean, those are stunning margins, right? They'd be stunning margins for anyone. They're huge. I think the part that just really is just something to consider and maybe give everyone some humility, even those AI geniuses,
so right now it's
that people just did not see that. That didn't see. Talk about the stealth Trump voter in every case. In this case, perhaps that is ground zero for that theory. All right, Harry, thank you very much. I do just have some breaking news I want to share with everybody as we go here to talk with our panel, and that is that Kamala Harris has now, we understand, reached out to speak to Donald Trump, obviously to concede, to speak to him. She has yet to connect with him, but we do know that she will be addressing the country at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Ostensibly, obviously, she wants to speak to the next president before she does that. My panel's back with me now. Ashley, that phone call, all right, the speech she's going to give obviously is going to be difficult for her. She's taken her time to be able to prepare herself for that. But this phone call with Trump, just again, on the human level, right? These are two people making a call. She's making a call to someone who has said all these things about her, personally pejorative, and yet that's a phone call that has to happen, and we anticipate will happen at any moment.
Well, it definitely should happen. It hasn't always happened, though, like in 2020. And I think that this is the type of woman that Kamala Harris is. This is why I would support her, is because she's an adult, and she believes in our democracy, and she understands that the voters have spoke, and she will accept the results of the election because she loves this country so much that it is not about her. It is about the will of the people. So it takes a lot of courage to make that call. Nobody likes to lose. You know, you don't run in an election to lose, definitely not run for the president of the United States to lose. Right. And I'm sure it's going to be very hard. But I will say that I'm sure this is not the first time she has had to work with somebody.
I got a comment about Kamala and Hillary and Pelosi. They should all join the defeated by Trump club. There goes 3 people. They must have liked Kamala or Hillary or Pelosi, but they should join a little club and eat ice cream together.
Or have a conversation with someone who has said nasty things about her. She has done many great things in her life, and so I'm sure she will handle it with grace and dignity, as she has on the campaign trail.
All right, so Karen, can I also talk about something that Harry's going through some of these numbers, and we're going to talk a lot about them because I don't want to bucket any group because there's differences, but there were just across the country some really important things to notice. When it came to women, the exit polling, again, at first were cautioned, hey, you can see it, but you don't know. What do people really say? It turned out to be accurate. Kamala Harris did not do better than Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton when it came to support among women.
Among white women specifically.
Yes. Why is that?
Oh, books will be written about this. One of the many reasons I will say, women as voters tend to be very hard on women candidates. That's just the data. Probably all kinds of reasons for that. I mean, she did do very well among young women, which is, I think, interesting.
Those lines at college campuses.
Yeah. So,
pull it down.
look, I think part of it is there is something cultural going on. We saw this in 2016, where in the aftermath, one of the things that was found was that one of the top reasons that people who had voted for Trump again. He had a strong majority of white voters that he was able to turn out. It was cultural anxiety and sort of, where do I fit in this changing world?
Right.
And this time around, I think what he was able to do was to identify the anxiety among young men, particularly young white men, and turns out Latino men, and to embrace them with the same kind of, I see you, I feel you, I can relate to you and give you a place. And so I think he identified that, and if you look at the data, that's where the surge came.
That's where the surge, although, I don't think that anybody really had on their bingo card, Jonah, that you'd be looking at a Republican Party, or I guess, let me just be more specific, Trump's party, where you had so many different groups across racial, ethnic lines on that side.
Yeah, look, it's remarkable election returns, and
thumbs up for chat.
We were saying during the break earlier, I think basically the Harris campaign's theory of the electorate was right, and so was the Trump theory of the electorate. It's just that the Trump theory was more right? And so they turned up the gain in rural counties. They turned up the gain with men, particularly Gen X men, and I think that one of the problems that this illuminates, and it's not just on the gender stuff, but it's also on like a whole broad range of identity politics kind of things, is that these categories become sort of shorthand cliches for punditry in politics. But like, Trump is, I haven't seen the numbers on married women, but going into it, it looked like he was going to win with married women, right? And so it's young single women that Harris did really, really well with. And so at some point, the utility of talking about the gender gap obscures the actual other differences and things going on with the electorate.
Right. Well, and David, somehow, and I guess this is where we all can have reflection, but comments like childless cat ladies or these things that were said, which rightfully incensed many people, they didn't land the way that people anticipated they would land across the board. Maybe they did with some younger single women, but the things that sort of became shorthand for how it would go were not the accurate indicators.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine what the vote total might have been if he didn't say those things, right? If he, I mean, look, I'm not a data analyst, and I don't know the numbers, but there's obviously a big number increases. African American men, Trump won 25% in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's a big number. What I think you see too, and this has been discussed, is it's socioeconomic divide, right? So it's college educated versus non-college educated, right? It's the working class versus the kind of upper middle class, right? People who work with their hands versus people who sit behind a desk. That's kind of how the parties are now breaking down, right? I worked for Arlen Specter. I was Arlen Specter's chief of staff, kind of a moderate Republican in Pennsylvania. Arlen Specter Republicans are now Democrats, and the people I grew up with in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, who were blue-collar, working-class Democrats, are now Republicans. So that's what's taking place. And so I think a lot of that makes up for, doesn't matter if you're black or white, it matters where you work, right? Where you live.
Well, it's fascinating. Maybe even history would show we don't have the perspective what happened in COVID, who went out to work every day and who didn't. These things, we do not understand how they marinated, even now. But now it seems that perhaps these things really did.
If you grew up like where Ashley and I kind of share, we're like, she's from Youngstown, I'm from Aliquippa, kind of across the border, but it's structurally the same place, right? That's very different than if you grew up in Shaker Heights, or if you grew up in the main line in Philadelphia. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic. It matters where you grew up more so. Your zip code is more about like who you voted for this time than where if you're black, white, or Hispanic.
I do think COVID. I do. All right, we're coming back. We're coming back. Don't worry. Hey, everybody. Lots to talk about. We're here for a long time. But I hope that all of you will be as well, as everyone tries to understand the meaning and the significance of this very historic moment. By the way, what's the market going to do? You know, you've heard all the things about, well, the economic experts say Harris's plan will be better. Well, that is just not how the markets see it. That's not how they saw it. The Dow right now is up more than 1,300 points. That is a record high. That's just an initial response. Doesn't mean where it'll go. It's still stunning. Donald Trump's return to the White House sparking that. Much more on that coming up.
Dow's looking good, guys. Stock market's up. Heads up, we're about to have 3 minutes of ads. We'll be right back after this ad break. Alright, I'm gonna turn my camera around. We're on ad break.
Forgive me, I've never been one for speeches, but I did want to say a few words.
Everything.
You don't mind?
I am not a very reactive person. I'm pretty bland. I'm like that gum that
I believe the last time we were all together was my father's birthday, 10 years ago. I'm sure you all remember that night.
Thumbs up if you think I'm bland.
I know I do.
Thumbs up for chat. 100 thumbs up equals chat.
I didn't have to spend my life trying to find my calling. Mine found me at an early age. There was no question of what I wanted to be. It was just a matter of how good I could get and how far I would go.
At Ram, our calling is to build trucks. So when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering it. A caring man took a walk. He saw people suffering. Anxiety ran high. Hatred rose. I'll prepare a feast and bring them together, he thought. But some refused to join him. He was heartbroken because he wanted everyone to be filled, not with food and wine, but with compassion.
Sorry about the politico-religious show.
At Ashley, you can find what you love and save up to $1,000 store-wide. So it's not just Black Friday. It's the Ashley Tonight I'm Going to Sleep Like a Log, whatever that means, Black Friday event. The Ashley, there's no way my husband's snoring is going to keep me awake now, Black Friday event. But don't wait, because it's also the Ashley, ooh, look, you can get 0% interest for 72 months Black Friday event.
All I want from Santa is to skip the line. Joy, 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 join the club.
Holiday rom-com, so much magic.
Get your things delivered, missing the end would be tragic.
I need to go shopping, but my kids had too much sugar.
Stay in your car with curbside pickup. Joy, 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 join the club.
They forgot all about.
Download the app today for more ways to shop, like curbside pickup and delivery. Terms and restrictions apply. See site for details.
Thumbs up.
They say you're better safe than sorry.
100 thumbs equals cat.
You can't reinvent the wheel. Curiosity killed the cat. They say take the path of least resistance. Live well enough alone. They say a lot of things. In 1953, they said our whiskey recipe tasted perfectly fine. So we burned it and made it better. Maker's Mark. Make your mark.
About on the 2-minute mark, so I think it's this ad and maybe one more.
So when you're inside a role, do you destroy who you are?
No, you're reaching to yourself. You find yourself.
Traditionary. At Macy's, the fragrance destination.
The Emperor is slipping through our grasp. We must act.
War requires sacrifice. It's just a madness.
Sisterhood above all.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in Dune. Thumbs up if you like Dune. You don't have to keep it up there, but if if you've watched it, thumbs up. No content. Nobody's watching the game. Alright, we're back. It says in a moment. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, it did it 3 times this time. It did it twice last time. Okay, so now 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to CNN's special coverage of the 2024 election. Donald Trump is heading back to the White House. As we all know by now, Republicans also have control of the incoming Senate. Control of the House of Representatives, though, still hanging in the balance. I want to bring in the House Republican Conference Chair, Elise Stefanik. She was a surrogate for the Trump campaign. CNN is projecting she easily won re-election in her upstate New York 21st District. Congratulations, Congresswoman. Thanks so much for coming in. I want to get to what's happening in the House in a second, but what's your immediate reaction to Donald Trump's very impressive, very decisive win in the Electoral College and the popular vote?
Well, this was an overwhelming victory for President Trump. We, the people, made our voices heard, and you can see a new big tent Republican Party. He made historic gains among African American voters, Latino voters, women voters, Asian American voters, Jewish voters, and a successful campaign, and it was successful on the issues.
Not that far behind.
And his America First message appealed across.
Not by much.
Still pretty much in play. How important is it for the incoming president, President Trump, and for your party to retain the House?
Well, it's very important, and we're very optimistic that we will not only hold the House, but that we will pick up seats, and here's why. If you look at the turnout in support of President Trump and how he was able to provide coattails to these Senate candidates with flipped Senate races, we believe we're seeing the same thing. We've already had 2 pickups in Pennsylvania. Of course, there were 3 losses in New York, but that was an overall win for us. Democrats tried to defeat 5 Republican incumbents in New York State. We're also watching the Upper Maine district closely, as well as California seats, which are trending in our direction. So we think we're going to pick up seats, obviously having unified Republican government to allow us to secure the border, focus on America First economic policies. That is a top priority, and that's why we worked so hard campaigning side by side President Trump.
If the House doesn't go in Trump's favor, Representative Stefanik, do you think he's ready to actually come to the negotiating table on any important issues with the Democrats?
Well, I think the House is going to go in Republicans' favor, and President Trump said so last night, and he knows how to read these votes better than anyone. But this is where I think the media did not give President Trump enough credit in his first term, Wolf. He delivered many bipartisan victories, whether it was the USMCA, updated trade agreements to support American manufacturers, small businesses, and farms. He passed the First Step Act. He passed Right to Try to make life-saving drugs available for Americans. The media never wanted to give him the bipartisan credit, but he actually delivered major bipartisan wins in that first term. And certainly we're going to have a Republican House to work to pass our agenda, secure the border. The real question needs to be asked, why have the Democrats failed to reach out to voters? They lost independence. They underperformed consistently. And it's because their radical message is woefully out of touch. To tell the American people the economy is okay when people see it at the grocery stores every day, President Trump won on the message, won on the substance, and just outworked Kamala Harris.
We did give him a lot of credit for the Abraham Accords, as you well know, Representative Stefanik, when he brought new partners for Israel to work with United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco. That was a very significant achievement on his part, as you I'm sure you appreciate as well. You are the Republican Conference Chair.
And I want to add to that.
Go ahead.
Yes, let me comment on that because I think that is really important, Wolf. People are paying attention to what's happening around the world, particularly the Middle East, particularly our precious ally, Israel, under attack by Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists and Iran directly. And to compare that with the historic Abraham Accords, as you laid out, the biggest breakthrough for peace normalization in a quarter of a century, and we had peace and stability around the world. That was a driving issue as well that President Trump won overwhelmingly.
Yeah, and it certainly helped him win a significant representative of the Jewish vote out there in your district and other districts as well, as I'm sure you appreciate. You're the Republican Conference Chair, Representative. What do you see as the party's top priorities when the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, takes office?
Well, we've been very straightforward telling the American people it's securing the border and it's growing our economy. President Trump has laid out his vision and policy plans on both of those. The good news is we know what a secure border looks like. We can go back to President Trump's successful border security policies, and the House passed the Secure the Border Act with every Republican vote, and, you know, voters held Democrats accountable. Not a single Democrat voted for that border security bill. So we intend to pass that. Growing the economy, unleashing energy independence, that is key. We passed that bill among House Republicans. President Trump is ready to get to work unleashing American energy dominance. And then, of course, growing the economy by ensuring that we continue to cut taxes for hardworking Americans. That means no tax on tips, no tax for Social Security. These were actually policy agenda items that President Trump rolled out that then Kamala Harris took and rolled out after the fact because they were resonating so significantly among the American people. But crushing this inflation is top of the mind, and we believe a path towards economic growth will help crush this skyrocketing inflation.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York, thanks very much for joining us, and congratulations once again on your very impressive win in your re-election win in upstate New York. And stay with CNN. Our special coverage continues right after this short break.
No, it's at the ads again. Oh, I hate ads.
We're gonna get the body moving. You're gonna love it!
Pull it up. Now go!
Go!
Pull it. Who's pumpkin? It's a new beginning. Ta-da!
We're gonna have fun today. How?
We're gonna manifest it. Manifest! Yes! Manifest!
Shut up!
Say you're looking for the perfect present. Head to the perfect place. A place with gifts that light up a face as well as a room. Where it's easy to find the brands they'll love and the advice you trust. That place isn't a warehouse store. That place is your local Ace. Around the block, what you need in stock. With service so good it's guaranteed. This Christmas, get free assembly and delivery on your new grill at Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
'Tis an ad about wireless, but please do remember, it's no holiday ad, though it runs through December. Don't get us wrong, this season's the best, but the holidays are expensive, and they do bring some stress. Visible's quite different. We make wireless stress-free, with unlimited data and no hidden fees. Switch now for a gift that transcends any season. $5 off every month for 2 years, for no reason. If that fills your heart with holiday-esque cheer, switch now for great wireless all through the year.
If you're living with HIV, imagine being good to go without daily HIV pills. Good to go binge watch. Good to go out even later. With Cabenuva, there's no pausing for daily HIV pills. For adults who are undetectable, Cabenuva is the only complete, long-acting HIV treatment you can get every other month. It's 2 injections from a healthcare provider, as few as 6 times a year. Don't take Cabenuva if allergic to its ingredients or taking certain medicines that may interact. Serious side effects include allergic reactions or rash, post-injection reactions, liver problems, and depression. If these occur, get medical help right away. Tell your doctor about your medicines or supplements, medical conditions, liver or kidney problems, mental health, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. The most common side effect is injection site reaction. With Cabenuva, you're good to go without daily HIV pills. Talk to your doctor about switching.
Inhale. My teacher, Yogi Bhajan, said those who hold these teachings will rule the earth for 5,000 years.
Unfortunately, it was mostly made up.
All I want from Santa is to skip the line. Joy, 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 join the club.
Holiday rom-com, so much magic.
Get your things delivered, missing the end would be tragic.
I need to go shopping, but my kids had too much sugar.
Stay in your car with curbside pickup. Joy, 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 join the club. Download the app today for more ways to shop, like curbside pickup and delivery. Terms and restrictions apply. See site for details.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Get 100 thumbs up, and then I'll open up chat. We'll be back in a moment. That's what it's telling us. I've got to wait for the ads, guys. I can't force it. It's doing live. Like, while I'm live, it's live. So I'm going live, and I'm doing a live feed for you guys. That's the third time it said we'll be back. It should be back. If it does it 4 times this time, I'm going to be like, so it's going to add we'll be back in a moment every time. You hear this? We'll be back in a moment 4 times now. Is it adding we'll be back in a moment? It's saying it right now. There we go.
All right, right now that market surge you can see on your screen. Re-election of Donald Trump causing a total surge, more than 1,330 points right now for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Let's bring in Kevin O'Leary, chairman of O'Leary Adventures. Adventures, I guess it's adventures at times.
Although we have some adventures.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure, of course, Shark Tank fame and all of that. All right, so here we are. I know that you've been a supporter of a number of Trump's economic proposals. Can I just start, though, with where we are this morning? Because I'm sure there were moments last night that you were sort of as shocked as everyone else was that this is how this is really going. What went through your head? And then you start to see the markets surge and that immediate reaction.
First market I saw move was Bitcoin, actually, because it trades 24/7.
Yeah.
We started to see that just after midnight. And by the way, Aaron, I just always preface my comments. I don't shill for politicians. I shill for policy.
Right.
And so I'm looking for pro-business policy. So when I saw Bitcoin moving, a lot of that coming from Asia, those markets and the Middle East, those markets were already watching you probably and other outlets that they can feed there, deciding this county information is getting interesting, and Bitcoin was a huge winner.
Right, and Trump obviously has been a big supporter of Bitcoin.
Well, he's also supporting the policy around digital payment systems, so this is going to be a good sector for us.
Right, okay, so can I just ask you, and this is the age-old question, so I know that you're going to have to caveat it with you don't know the answer for sure, but he says a lot of things. He has said a lot of things. Do you really think he's going to do all these things? Do you really think that he's going to put tariffs in across the board, or is that a negotiating strategy that he was doing to say something, to signal to China?
As you know, going through Congress right now is a reciprocal tariff bill, which is very fair. If Germany taxes us or tariffs us at 10% on cars, we do the same to them. It'll be reciprocal, with the exception of China. I'm an advocate for turning up the heat on China so that we get them to the table to join that act, because they came into the WTO in 1999. Trump is using these, people think they're sales taxes, they're not. It's a negotiating tactic. This is what he does well, I would argue. If the supreme leader now knows that Trump is going to run the show. If Trump says, look, I'm going to crank you up to 400% until you get over here to Washington, he'll fly to Washington. That's what we need. We need Trump's negotiating tactic, his uncertainty that he brings to the table. These adversaries get nervous when they don't understand the direction he's going.
Okay, so now let me ask you a couple of other important questions. First, let's talk about Elon Musk.
Yes.
Okay, you know him, and he was an instrumental part of this, right?
Yes.
He got on board early, instrumental part of it. Okay, so Trump says he's going to run the Doge. I kind of name it after, the Doge, right? Used to run Venice back in the day. I don't know. Okay, the Department of Government Efficiency. Do you think Elon Musk is actually going to come in and do that? Do you think he's capable of doing that in a good way? I mean, is this, again, more rhetoric than reality?
No, actually. Think about, I used to work for Steve Jobs. I'm going to draw an analogy I think you'd appreciate.
Yep.
He was not a nice guy to work for, by the way, but he was 85% signal, 15% noise. The only other entrepreneur that I've ever seen that is more efficient than Jobs is Elon Musk. He's 100% signal,
difficult social skills as a result, doesn't matter. Every mandate, well, I'm pointing out to you that every mandate that he's decided to take on, he's executed on. There's no man on earth with executional skills like that. If he says he's going to do it, he'll surround himself with advocates, and he'll put them to work as he does. And if you look at his business models, he brings really good talent in, and then he comes in and runs the show. He's going to need Trump to back him on this, because no agency wants to be downsized. So if they do this, they can find a lot of savings.
And do you believe, from what you're hearing now, and maybe the fact that Trump looks easily on track to win the popular vote, the fact that this is such a mandate, it wasn't just a narrow, eked out victory, right? Overall, it wasn't. Does that change the fact, the big worry that people have is who's he going to attract to work for him? After last time, after what the general said, after all the people.
I've got good news for you, Aaron, on this one. Harold Ludwig is running the transition team. I've had a chance to speak with him very briefly. A-listers coming in. We're not going to have the same volatility we had on Mandate 1. Trump 2.0 really wants this to work. It's not going to be a rotating doors of guys coming in and writing books the next week about their horrible experience. They're going to find great people to run this mandate, because this is his legacy mandate. He's going to be good for 3 years before he's a lame duck. He knows that. I think he
does know that. You think he cares about legacy?
You know, being shot at twice kind of sobers you up a little bit. I think that's changed him. He's an older guy now. He's a far more pragmatic guy. I'm an advocate to let him go do his thing and watch him go to work. He cares a lot about the economy, and he's made promises he wants to keep. You get to that point in your life where you want to leave something behind that was a great thing you did. And I think this is going to be what Trump's focused on.
Right.
And I want to say something about the outcome. We corrected ourselves last night. America corrected itself. We were going to a crazy place, and that's what I love about democracy. It fixed itself. We're all better off. And even the Democrats, this was good for them. They're going to get to reboot. This party will be much stronger in 36 months.
Yeah, well, it will change. It will change, and obviously could be very much stronger. All right, Kevin, thank you very much. And stay with CNN, because Election Day in America Continued is back after this short break.
I do gotta pay for this every month. Every thumbs up and subscription helps me pay for my
There's just some police trucks outside.
So I can
Butcher. This whole concert is a trap. I can't stop the monster.
Monsters aren't real.
Yes, they are.
So I can keep doing this. So I can react to the live feed on.
All I want from Santa is to skip the line. Join the club.
Holiday rom-com, so much magic.
Get your things delivered, missing the end would be tragic.
I need to go shopping, but my kids had too much sugar.
Stay in your car with curbside pickup. Join the club.
Download the app today for more ways to shop, like curbside pickup and delivery. Terms and restrictions apply. See site for details.
'Tis an ad about wireless, but please do remember, it's no holiday ad, though it runs through December. Don't get us wrong, this season's the best, but the holidays are expensive, and they do bring some stress. Visible's quite different. We make wireless stress-free, with unlimited data and no hidden fees. Switch now for a gift that transcends any season. $5 off every month for 2 years for no reason. If that fills your heart with holiday-esque cheer, switch now for great wireless all through the year.
Oh, perfect.
Look, I got the new iPhone 16 Pro at Verizon. Apple Intelligence is pretty awesome. You can get it when you trade in any phone.
You see, Surrogate.
We're stuck on an ad.
Switch to Verizon and get the new iPhone 16 Pro and get a new iPad and Apple One all on us. That's over $1,600 in value. Only on Verizon.
Look, I got the new iPhone 16 Pro at Verizon. Apple Intelligence is pretty awesome. You can get it when you trade in any phone.
I know where apples come from.
You see, Surrogate.
Apples come from trees.
At Verizon, new and existing customers can get iPhone 16 Pro and a new iPad all on us. That's over $1,400 in value. Only on Verizon.
There's only one way to limit screen time while expanding it. The 2024 Jeep Wrangler Gladiator. Gee, there's only one.
20.
Start rehearsal! Everyone on their A game. Timber time!
I'm not making that many.
And cut.
That's
2
the
words.
most thumbs
No
up I've
words.
had on one
3rd word.
video.
Wow. I just want this to be a good film.
The studio has a woman problem.
I may have done a sexism once, but I've always wanted to make a feminism.
I'm going to get this stunt if it kills me and everyone involved in this production. Done over health and safety for you. Welcome. Thank you, health and safety.
Chat. 20 thumbs up for chat.
What he was in the 90s
Oh God, we're talking about Diddy.
has had a great deal
Here
to
we go
do
again.
with what he has become.
Why? Transformation. I go from 5 head to bowl cut. Okay, you hear that sound? It's saying we'll be back in a moment. Last time it was 4 times and it almost did it 5. But it's done it 2 times so far. That's 3. Alright, so it should do it 5 times, going on almost 6, right? There's 3. There's 4. Alright. I don't know why it keeps on doing the stacking the will be back. CNN, you need to work on your Max subscription. There we go. Did it for
Hello, I'm Wolf Blitzer alongside Aaron Burnett. I want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world.
All right, several battleground states, Wolf, we are still waiting for results, still being counted. But let's just be clear. This race to 270 is over. This is CNN special coverage of Election Day in America. Continued.
Donald Trump returns to the White House, the president-elect pulling off potentially the biggest political comeback in American history. Remarkably, Trump made significant gains in nearly every demographic group across the country, and now is on track to win the popular vote as well, something he failed to do in his previous 2 presidential runs. Also at stake right now, the balance of power in Washington. Republicans have flipped the U.S. Senate. We're learning they're growing more and more confident they'll also keep control of the House of Representatives. More on that in a moment. But first, we have a key race alert for you right now. All right, let's take a look at the key race alert, starting in Michigan with its 15 electoral votes. 98% of the estimated vote is now in. Trump has a lead of nearly 100,000 votes, 49.8% to 48.2% for Kamala Harris. In Arizona and its 11 electoral votes, 63% of the vote is in. Trump has a lead of 51.9% to 47.2%. A lead of slightly more than 100,000 votes over Kamala Harris in Arizona, another key battleground state. Nevada and its 6 electoral votes, 88% of the estimated vote is in. Trump is ahead in Nevada, 51.5% to 46.8%. A lead of nearly 60,000 votes for Trump over Harris in Nevada right now. Just hours from now, the Vice President Kamala Harris will be speaking after conceding to Donald Trump. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez is over at the Harris campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C., and Kristen Holmes is over at the Trump headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida. Let's start with Vice President Kamala Harris. We're told she has reached out to Trump to concede, but has not connected yet with him. Priscilla, what else do we know?
Well, she wants to connect with him before she delivers her remarks at her alma mater of Howard University later this afternoon. Recall that this was where she was also having her election night party last night. She did not give remarks then. She will be giving remarks today. But certainly the feeling among Harris allies, those close to the campaign and those in the campaign, is a sense and state of shock and disbelief. That is what I have been hearing over the course of the morning, including in the early morning hours of today. One source saying their stomach was in knots, another saying that they felt, quote, terrible, and yet another saying that the mood among campaign officials was gloomy, that it was the results that came in Pennsylvania, which would have been a linchpin of their strategy to 270 electoral votes. And that really was, as this person put it, the nail in the coffin. The reason this has been such a shock among those close to the Harris campaign is because privately and publicly, senior campaign officials had been projecting confidence and optimism over the course of the day yesterday, essentially citing internal data and suggesting that some of those undecided voters, some of the voters that they had been targeting, were leaning toward the vice president. The results show that was not entirely the case, and some of that has already led to finger pointing, especially, for example, the strategies deployed to reach those disaffected Republicans. And we have seen that some of those red counties stayed very much red and included higher margins for former President Donald Trump. So certainly a reckoning within the party and the campaign as they look forward to today. But we are also told that the vice president, when she gives remarks today, intends to implore her supporters to respect the outcome of this election and to urge supporters to find common ground. So certainly we'll hear more on all of that later this afternoon when the vice president speaks at Howard University. Wolf.
And we'll have live coverage, of course, to be sure. Priscilla Alvarez, thank you very much. I want to turn to CNN's Kristen Holmes right now. Kristen, what are you hearing from the Trump team down in West Palm Beach?
Well, Wolf, I do want to quickly touch on this idea that Harris has been reaching out to Donald Trump. We have reached out to several senior advisors, to campaign staff, to see why exactly Harris has been unable to reach the former president. We have not heard back yet. But when it comes to the former president, look, his team clearly celebrating. They've been celebrating since last night. They were projecting a cautious optimism. And then, of course, we saw what happened last night when Donald Trump won the presidency, or I guess early this morning. Now, one thing that they're contending with this morning is that the knives are already out. It's not just talking about at the campaign level, but in Donald Trump's whole orbit. I have been talking to a number of sources who are already starting that jockeying for a position on the Trump administration. They are talking about various jobs like Secretary of State, like Chief of Staff. They are trying to get their names floated. They are trying to prove to Trump's inner circle, and that's likely the people who have been closest to him during this campaign, just how loyal they have been to this cycle. And one thing to keep in mind, we talked about this in January, Donald Trump was keeping very close tabs on when exactly Republicans backed him. Did they back him after he won Iowa or before? Were they joining his team as closest to 2022 when he was exiled essentially from the Republican Party, or were they just coming around in recent weeks? All of this is something Donald Trump is likely to take into consideration. One thing to note, he has not been having serious conversations about what his transition would look like or what his administration will look like because he is so superstitious. That's obviously all now going to change. Wolf?
Kristen Holmes down in West Palm Beach, Florida for us. Thank you very much. Let's bring in our panel for some serious discussion. And MJ, let's talk a little bit about the extraordinary reporting that we're getting from inside the Harris camp, where there's apparently a lot of fingers being pointed at Biden.
Yeah, there's a lot of finger pointing going on as Democrats are now trying to process what happened here. How was it possible that we suffered such a loss? And one of the people that is going to get a brunt of that is President Biden, going back to his decision to even seek re-election in the first place. Something else that I think just bears repeating is the degree of shock that I am getting from the Harris campaign as well. You know, this is a candidate and a campaign that from the very beginning, they build themselves as the underdogs. And up until the very end, you know, they said, we know that this is going to be a very close race. This could come down to the margins in a number of the states. But I will say, everybody that I have talked to a person, there is shock at the scope of the defeat that Kamala Harris saw last night. One senior advisor I was talking to said, of course we knew that this was possible, but in a world where she is winning New Jersey by just 5 points, this is a state that Joe Biden won by 16 points back in 2020, we knew that something bigger was at play. And I think it's also just worth talking about the fact that this is just an emotional time for everybody on the campaign and Democrats, of course, writ large. You know, these are people that worked on, whether it's the Biden campaign that turned into the Harris campaign, really poured everything into trying to get the vice president elected. And now not only are they dealing with sort of the emotional processing of what happened last night, but also figuring out their lives or packing up their homes that they had temporarily set up in these battleground states and figuring out what's even next for me in my life and my careers. Happens every cycle, but just worth repeating that this is some of what they are processing right now in the big picture and then in their own lives too.
And Gloria, on that point, the Democrats clearly have a lot of serious soul searching to do right now. Where do they start?
Well, I think they start at the very beginning and the question about Joe Biden, as MJ was talking about, and how Joe Biden decided to run for re-election. The Democrats I talked to say, look, if he hadn't decided, we would have had a real primary. We would have been able to craft a theme that would get us somewhere, and we wouldn't have been tied to Joe Biden. And that's the problem. She became the candidate who couldn't separate herself from Joe Biden. And when you have 3/4 of the country thinking it's headed in the wrong direction, that's a real problem. So Donald Trump became the candidate of change. And you always want to be the candidate of change when you're running. And he became the candidate of change, and she became the candidate of more of the same. No matter how much she tried, no matter how many proposals she proposed, people saw her as an extension of Joe Biden. And as we were talking about before, I was talking to one source who called this a rolling realignment. Because if you look at the major shifts in the way the parties are defined now, the populist party is the Republican Party, the party of the elites are the Democrats. You know, when the margins are small in a state like New Jersey, you have to kind of look at that and say, well, what's going on there? You know, this isn't about race. It's more about education and the way people have been feeling about the way they've been treated by government, and they don't trust government anymore. And Kamala Harris was government.
Yeah, good point. New Jersey, historically a pretty democratic state.
Yeah.
As we all know. Manu, I know you're getting some new reporting right now about the Florida Senator Rick Scott and how he's positioning himself. What are you hearing?
Yeah, this is actually the next election that's actually going to happen immediately. Next week, Republicans have a huge decision in the United States Senate. Who is going to be the next Senate majority leader? This is the person who will decide what bills can come to the floor, what bills will not come to the floor, how to position themselves in working with or maybe sometimes breaking with the incoming president. There are 3 candidates in this race. One of them is the person on your screen there, Florida Senator Rick Scott, who did win his second term last night in Florida. He is telling his colleagues that he will be essentially the Trump candidate, someone who could align himself with Donald Trump. They say they could push along the Trump agenda. Now, he is seen as a long shot candidate in this race. He's up against Senator John Thune, who's the current Republican whip, and Senator John Cornyn, who's a former whip, someone who was actually involved ran the GOP campaign committee for 2 cycles. Both Thune and Cornyn are seen as the favorites in this race, but this is a secret ballot election, Wolf, so it's unclear how senators will ultimately come down. And here's the other big question. What will Trump do? We know that Cornyn and Thune in particular have been trying to bolster their relationship with Trump over some time. Thune had a bit of a more fraught relationship with Trump over the past couple of years. He backed Tim Scott for the presidency as well. How does Trump react? Does he try to tip the scales, and do senators actually listen to him? Because this position is so huge, it'll help define the future of this party, as Republicans are looking at a 52-48 Senate at least, but that could potentially grow even to a 54-46 Senate.
I suspect the senators will listen to him. Yeah. But that's just my suspicion.
Yeah, but some of them don't. Some of them don't. And when it's a secret ballot election, you really never know.
Yeah. Don't they want him to stay out of it?
Yeah, some of them do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. An important decision indeed coming up. Everybody stand by. I want to get back to Aaron Burnett, who has reaction from a Harris surrogate. What are you learning, Aaron?
All right. Well, Wolf, let's find out here now, because obviously crucial surrogate in the state of Michigan was Debbie Dingell, and Donald Trump is leading Kamala Harris by more than 90,000 votes in what was supposed to be the blue wall state of Michigan. That state, though, just to be clear, we have not formally made the call yet. There is a very tight Senate race as well playing out in Michigan, as Manu just explained. With us now, the Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan. So, Congresswoman Dingell, you and I have spoken several times over these past recent days. I guess there's got to be a part of you who knew this was possible, because I remember the last time we spoke, you said you were nauseously optimistic, and that was after going across the state. Now you know what you know, and obviously we have not yet made a formal call. What are you thinking about what happened in Michigan?
So I'm not surprised, Darren, like many others are. The fact of the matter is that I continued to tell all of you for months that this state was tight. It was going to be close. It may be a little bigger than I thought that it was going to be, but I knew what it was coming down to. So it's not unexpected for me. So I think I'm going to be very blunt. As Democrats, we got to do some soul searching. We're getting a message from a lot of people that we're not hearing them. And I hope we take the time to do the soul searching we have to do.
Well, I think a lot of people have to appreciate your honesty and your bluntness on this. Can I ask you about a couple of those groups, Congresswoman? First, let's just talk about women. We're two women having this conversation. Harris did worse with women than Biden did with women, and then Hillary Clinton did with women. That is just something, I mean, maybe you saw it. I don't know anybody who saw that. I don't know anyone in the Trump campaign who saw that. How do you explain that?
So in Michigan, we had a ballot proposal on choice 2 years ago. So it wasn't the first and forefront issue that it was, say, 2 years ago on our ballot. But, you know me, I talk to everybody. That's how I get a gut. I went into the eye doctor on Monday morning and saw, a mid-50s African-American woman. And I said, have you voted? And she said, no. And I said, do you have a plan? And she said, no, I haven't decided who to vote for. And so it doesn't surprise me. If people listen to real people and talk to them about what the issues are, the economy was a big issue. And I don't think giving billionaire tax cuts is exactly the way to solve it. But I'm going to work. We have to respect the integrity of the electoral system. And now we're going to have to work with a new president for the next 4 years and learn what we weren't hearing and why we lost.
Well, I mean, look, that's humility. I also think it's important for people to hear you'll work with them, right? That you will, that this is the way this country works. And I know it can't be easy for some to hear and maybe even to say, but it is so important. Can I ask you about something else, Congresswoman? Because you and I spoke a couple times in recent days, right? And both times you talked about Jill Stein and you talked about how significant it was. And in fact, in one of the interviews, I knew coming in that you really wanted to bring it up because you were concerned. You wanted to send the message to the Arab American community, particularly in Dearborn, that voting for Jill Stein was a vote for Donald Trump, of course, who is a very clear Israel supporter. So the numbers for Dearborn come in. Trump wins by 42%, Harris at 36%. Jill Stein got 18% of the vote in Dearborn, Michigan. 18% of the vote. This isn't 2 or 3. It's not on the margin where it was possibly polling. It's 18%. What do you think about that?
I think that the community is trying to send a message. I want to say to you that what is going on in the Mideast is tearing people apart, and it's particularly hard in Michigan. People are raw and hurting on both sides. And quite frankly, I get killed by both sides. I get protested. I have threats, but I listen to them. I talk to them. And a lot of people are unwilling to just put themselves out there and listen and understand what their hurt is and what they're saying. And I quite frankly think the fear of people on all sides being willing to talk to them is what resulted in Jill Stein getting support. People are angry. They've lost family members. By the way, both sides. Here in Michigan, I feel like the war in the Mideast has come to Michigan. And even people inside the Democratic Party are at each other's throats. It's not good.
When you talk about looking at how you're going to have to work across the aisle, you could be looking at a Republican White House, obviously we know that, a Republican Senate, we know that. Could be a Republican House as well. So how do you navigate within that as what you say is a pragmatic, Democratic elected congressperson? How do you deal when they have a full sweep?
Look, I have relationships on the other side of the aisle. Look, I'm going to always stand up for what I believe. And when I think something's wrong, I'm going to be respectful and tough and tense. But I'll also say, I agreed with Donald Trump that we needed to redo NAFTA. And by the way, that's why I thought he won in 2016. Bob Lighthouser, I've worked with a lot. I think he's a smart man. He's going to be part of this administration. So there are some things that I support that he does, and you've got to do that. And if you disagree, I'm going to stand up strong. And what I really want is all the vitriolicness, the ugliness, the threats, the violence, the pitting us against each other to please stop. We are strong in this country as the United States of America. And my biggest problem with the former president, about to be president again, is the way that he pits each other, all of us against each other at times with his rhetoric. And if I were to ask or pray for anything, it's that we all dial it down and find ways to disagree in a civil manner and stop this vitriolicness that is really going to cost the country far too much.
All right. Well, Congresswoman Dingell, I appreciate your time and your thoughts as always, and thanks for joining me on this post-election war. Well, the saying that it's the economy, stupid, rings true once again. We saw it in the exit polls. We're seeing it across the board. It mattered more than any conversation about Hitler or fascist or anything like that. So we're going to go in a deep dive on exactly what that means as you continue to watch our special coverage of Election Day in America continued. Wolf and I will be right back.
What's going on, Dad? Is something wrong?
What's with all the police trucks outside? You know, the butcher. This whole concert, it's a trap for him.
You stay in the seat.
I promise.
I think you're looking for me. I mean, all of you. I can't stop the monster.
Monsters aren't real.
Yes, they are.
All I want from Santa is to skip the line. Joy, 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 join the club.
Holiday rom-com, so much magic.
Get your things delivered, missing the end would be tragic.
I need to go shopping, but my kids had too much sugar.
Stay in your car with curbside pickup. Joy, 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 join the club.
Download the app today for more ways to shop, like curbside pickup and delivery. Terms and restrictions apply. See site for details.
This is the greatest sleep innovation ever created. It's the patented Gel Flex Grid inside every Purple mattress. Only Purple passes the raw egg test because only Purple cradles your body and simultaneously supports it. Memory foam doesn't come close. Purple conforms to relieve pressure from hips and shoulders while supporting your spine and instantly adapts no matter your position. Sleep on a Purple risk-free for 100 nights. Save up to $1,000 during our Black Friday sale. Visit purple.com or a store near you.
Thrive Cosmetics Brilliant Eye Brightener is your "of course I got 9 hours of sleep" secret. This buildable cream to powder formula effortlessly illuminates and brightens your best features. Available in a variety of shades. Use it as an eyeliner, eyeshadow, or below your brow for an instant eye lift. Non-irritating, 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and packed with antioxidants that leave you with an all-day glow. No wonder it's sold every 3 seconds. Plus, for every product you purchase, we donate to help communities thrive. Join our movement today at thrivecosmetics.com.
Socks, underwear, and t-shirts are the most requested items in homeless shelters. Bombas was founded to help, so for everyone you buy, we donate one. One purchased, one donated. It's a tangible act of kindness for those who need it most. Distributed by 3,500 giving partners across all 50 states. And with 140 million donations and counting, the impact is real. Visit bombas.com and get 20% off your first order.
Choosing the right candidate for any office is difficult, whether the office is square or even oval. But ZipRecruiter finds quality candidates for your office fast. If only every decision could be this easy.
At Bombas, we make the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. so comfortable, you'll wish you had more. Visit bombas.com and get 20% off your first order.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Our special coverage, Donald Trump back in power, elected the 47th president of the United States. Let's get to Phil Mattingly. He's over here with me at the Magic Wall. So tell our viewers, Phil, how did the president-elect make this truly historic comeback?
Well, it is clear the former president overperformed just about everywhere he needed to compared to his 2020 results. But I want to dig a little deeper right here. This was the blue wall. The former president shattered it in 2016 on his way to his first presidency. Joe Biden won it back in 2020. Now Trump looks to have, he already has 2 of the 3 in his column, a third maybe on its way. What's important here with the blue wall is not just that Trump was able to cut into suburban margins or urban margins or run up his own margins in the rural counties. It starts here. And we actually saw this when we were out on the campaign trail over the course of the last several months, Wolf. What you're looking at right now is the darker the county, the darker the shade of the county, that tells you where people are falling behind when it comes to keeping up with the increase in the cost of living. If you look at the entire national map, what's the darkest state overall? All the counties taken together. It's the state of Pennsylvania, the critical linchpin state of the blue wall. Also, a number of the counties in Michigan, a number of the counties in Wisconsin. This was an area where, despite the broadly positive macroeconomic numbers of the Biden administration, people were failing to keep up with the cost of living. I want you to pay attention, Wolf, to the darkest counties you see here in Pennsylvania. Right here, this is Center County. Right here, this is Erie County. Right here, this is Monroe County. Northampton is right below it as well. Now, you take that. Those are by far the counties that fell the furthest behind when it came to cost of living. Now, match that up with where Donald Trump flipped counties over the course of the last 24 hours. So we start with Erie. This was a county that in 2020, Joe Biden was able to take back from Donald Trump, winning it narrowly, but winning it nonetheless. What happened in 2024? Donald Trump took it back. What about Center County? This was a place that in 2020, Joe Biden won it by nearly 5 points. What happened in 2024? Donald Trump flipped it into the Republican column. What about over here in Monroe County? This was a place that in 2020, Joe Biden didn't just win it. He won it rather handily by almost 6.5 points. What happened in 2024? Donald Trump flipped it into the Republican column. What's the through line of all 3 of these counties? All 3 of these counties were the counties that you saw the darkest shades, underscoring the most difficult time the voters in these counties had with keeping up with the cost of living. It's something we saw repeatedly throughout the course of the results coming in with Pennsylvania. It was not just about one particular issue. It wasn't even about ground game or younger voters, suburban voters. It was about the number one issue that people were facing. That was the economy. And Pennsylvania got hit particularly hard, even as the rest of the country came out and recovered from COVID and the pandemic, Wolf.
So what you're saying, it's the economy stupid. Is that what I'm hearing?
A guy I think you know coined that term, and I think he's still pretty spot on it.
I think you're right. All right, thanks very much. Phil Mattingly here at the Magic Wall. Let's get back to Aaron. Aaron?
All right, well, obviously, Donald Trump didn't just win back the presidency. He also, and this is just one day. This is how markets go. But, net worth on paper became $1 billion richer. That social media site, DJT, Truth Social, which, this is not indicative of the actual value of the company. This is just a reflection of, him surged at the opening bell on Wall Street this morning. And the Dow overall is up more than 1,300 points. And that has nothing to do with Truth Social. That is just a market that is rallying because they think Donald Trump is going to be good for them. That's the reality. So let's go to Harry Enton. So, Harry, coming out last night, again, those first exit polls, it was sort of this, the economy came out on top and democracy second. There were a few places where that was reversed, but it was economy on top and democracy second. This might be going differently, but it was just very clear, right, in those polls from the beginning.
Yeah, I don't understand how anyone could expect Kamala Harris to win when just 32% of the voters last night said the condition of the national economy was excellent or good. 67%, 2/3 of voters said not good or poor. And how did those voters go? Not surprisingly, they went against the incumbent party. Look at the margin that we see that Donald Trump pulled off amongst those who said the economy was not good or poor. Look at that. That's a 40-point margin. No way Kamala Harris could win, given that these particular numbers. How about Latino voters, right? We spoke about them last hour. We spoke about Latino men. Let's talk about Latinos overall. Look at this. What do they say their most important issue was? Number one, the economy. Number one, the economy. And how did those 40% who said that the economy was their top issue, how did they vote in the election? Take a look at this. This, I think, gives the game away amongst them. Look at this. A 33-point edge for Donald Trump. You know, in the exit polls, Donald Trump kept Kamala Harris's margin down to, I believe, 8 points. I went back through exit polls since 1972, looking at the Latino vote. Donald Trump did better for a Republican nominee for president than any Republican nominee for president dating all the way back since 1972. And the big reason why, when you look at the exit polls, it was, dare I say, repeat the phrase, it was the economy stupid, but really it was inflation stupid.
Yeah, it was, and you saw it across the board. Harry, thank you very much. The panel's back with me. Karen Finney, you know, it's interesting when Democrats saw the worry about the economy, which they saw.
Oh, yeah.
Their argument was, well, prices are, but we hear you. We feel that pain. Prices are not going up by as much as they were. Inflation is abating. We have a housing plant, right? I mean, they tried to address it in those ways. It obviously fell on largely deaf ears. 66% of Trump supporters said the economy was the most important issue. Only a third of Harris voters saw that.
Yeah.
Did the Harris team just not see the full picture here?
No, I think they did, and I think she actually did a better job than President Biden has done on acknowledging the pain and trying to speak to the pain in terms of, if you look at the policies that she put out, she was directly trying to address, you know, price of groceries, housing costs, I mean, very specific parts of the economy were the biggest pain points, but I think it just wasn't enough. And look, I will also say that female candidates running for executive office tend to face resistance to the belief that they will handle the economy. For some reason, whether we like it or not, we tend to think men are better on the economy and on security. So I'm not saying that's why she lost on the issue. I'm just saying there's a couple of things that were just baked in because, let's be honest, she also needed to have distanced herself a little more from Biden. And I think that might have actually, if she had been able to do that a little more effectively, that might have even opened more ears to her economic message.
Right. And, you know, David, we could talk anecdotally, but they were, you know, thinking of just various men who happen to be Hispanic I spoke to over the past year, all Trump voters, all economic, right? And in anecdotal, the numbers come in when you see the exit polls with Hispanic males, it was very overwhelming. And yet, there was a concern. I'm not just going to say it was a media narrative. There was a concern in the Trump campaign, a very serious one, that the comment said about garbage by Tony Hinchcliffe at the Madison Square Garden rally was going to cause deep damage to the Hispanic vote, right? You can't just say it was a mainstream media concern. That was a concern everywhere. And yet we simply pretty overwhelming number here for Latino men.
I probably listen. Just to go back to what Karen says. Listen, I do agree with what Karen says in that, you know, Kamala Harris kind of got dealt this card with Harry showing you on the right track, wrong track economy.
Yep.
So you have to run as a party candidate, right? That she had to run as a part of the party, but she had to also at the same time try to distance herself from that party, right? She was like, okay, I inherited the Biden team, so I inherit that, but at the same time, if I want to chart a different course, I got to really throw all these people under the bus. So it's a really tough spot to start from for her.
Right.
And you know, when she went on The View, that was kind of the death knell, right? When she was asked the question,
what would you do differently?
Right? She should have said, listen, you know, with all due respect, I could do this, I could do that. I think that would have been a pivot point. That was a pivotal moment in the campaign because that was obviously clipped and packaged and run hundreds of times over. And that, to your point about, you know, what do Hispanic, you know, working class families, African American working class families in general, and they saw that ad and they're thinking like, the country's going on the wrong track. She's not going to change anything. Why should we? We're not going to keep her in power then. So by feeling tethered to that, the previous administration and the party there, if she had a little more freedom to kind of go differly, I think the race may have gone a little different.
And she only had 107 days to do it, and it's really hard. Like if we had a primary in 2022 or 2023, She would have had a year to slowly start to walk herself away if she got through but doing that in 107 days, I think there was a risk reward calculation that the campaign made, and Karen and I have had conversations about this, is if she did it on day one, there would be people would call her disloyal. It was a double-edged sword, and I think the reason why, and the campaign will have to decide to say this, but I think the reason why they did not distance themselves is because they were looking at 2022. And we were on these panels, and some of the same numbers about dissatisfaction by Joe Biden's approval rating.
Right, there was going to be a red wave, and then there was a blue wave. And
so we were
on a ballot.
That's right. But they were looking at that as an indicator that they could move that into 2024, and it just didn't.
I know, again, history's going to be written, and there's so many things we don't know. We're talking about the role of COVID. But one thing, when you try to say if this was just a realignment or a temporary thing or one of the greatest, most speedy shifts in political history, is going to be the Hispanic vote. So can I just ask you about Starr County, Texas? I just use this one to make the example, John. I'm sure you have another one. The most Hispanic county in the United States of America, 97% of the people, okay? That, it has not voted Republican since 1892, and Trump won it 57-41.
Yeah, that's kind of a wake-up call there.
I mean, I had to get
In 2016, he lost it by 60 points. He won it by 16 this time around, which means it's a 76-point swing. It's a huge. And so, look, and I think this sort of gets to some of the points we're talking about with the gender stuff. Hispanic vote, the way Democrats, and to be fair, a lot of Republicans talk about Latinos, they're talking about it as if it's like this monolithic identity, when in fact, there are a lot of inter-ethnic differences. A lot of Hispanics in this country were not freaked out by the immigration talk or the deportation talk because their families have been here for 4 generations.
Right.
And so what has happened with the Hispanic vote is, in many ways, Hispanics used to vote disproportionately Democrat, not because there was some congenital thing about being Hispanic. It was because they were disproportionately poor. And as they move up the socioeconomic ladder, they become indistinguishable from the median voter. So those cultural trends that are grabbing men and working class men, they're going to grab Hispanics in much the same way they would grab, white men and I don't know how zip code, and now a zip code, and also a chunk of African American men.
I will say, I sometimes get nervous about talking about communities when they're not represented on the panel. So I want to acknowledge that there is no Latina, to my knowledge. Maybe I don't know, but on this panel. But we say that about Black people, that we're not a monolith, and we say that about Latinos. I do think, though, the origin story of those two communities is distinctly different.
For sure.
To your point, and so one of the reasons why I think Black voters have remained loyal to the Democratic Party is because the distinct difference to the origin story and how they feel like they interact with both parties. And I think when we see, again, I think that folks overestimated what Black men were going to do, how Black men were going to support Donald Trump. It did not really manifest.
She kept Biden's level. She did increase it, though. I mean, she did.
Pennsylvania.
But I think on the national average, but I think when you look at the Latino population, they truly are not a monolith. They speak different dialects in their own
culture. Like California Latinos are very different than Florida.
The Florida Latinos. And the messaging, and it wasn't just in this campaign. This has been about an 8-year messaging game that the conservatives have been working in those communities. Much of the conversation is disinformation about socialism and whatnot, but some of it is really culturally relevant.
This is interesting. They know Elon Musk saying if they lose, it's a one-party country. And not only did they win, but he certainly did not foresee the coalition that actually accomplished that.
Just real quickly on Hispanics, overwhelmingly Catholic, very religious, right?
Yeah.
So those issues, those issues, pretty big in that.
All right, and don't go anywhere because we're going to be back. Stay with us. Our special coverage continues after a brief break.
Amazon early holiday deals are here. Woo! Woo! With everything you need to kick off the season. Woo! Shop Amazon early holiday deals now. Woo!
Hold it. Hold it. Don't think I can hold it.
Sweating over leaks more than your workout? It's time to upgrade. Always Discreet absorbs liquid in seconds with a unique dry tech layer that keeps you drier than poise. With less bunching and bulk, you can sweat harder and stay drier. Up to 0 leaks, 0 odor, and 0 bunching. We've got you. Always. Always Discreet.
I wish I could house without burning the turkey. Join the club.
So much ice in carpool tunnel.
Poppies in the oven, step away from the knife. I want to invite more people, but it's so expensive.
Spend less on food and invite your second cousins twice removed. Less time cooking and more time familying. Join the club.
Feed 10 for under $100 with a meal that heats up within 2 hours. See site for details.
I could never hate my kids, you guys. I could never hate my kids. With that said, I hate how they roll dice. You're coming in too hot! I hate when they wake up in the middle of the night. Bad news! I hate how much they talk about lava. The only thing I know about lava is if they see it up close, I've done a bad job as a father.
I didn't have to spend my life trying to find my calling. Mine found me at an early age.
At Ram, our calling is to build trucks. So when you find your call, nothing can stop you from answering it.
Choosing the right candidate for any office is difficult, whether the office is square or even oval. But ZipRecruiter finds quality candidates for your office fast. If only every decision could be this easy.
Welcome to the Credit Karmaverse, a place where financial progress can happen at the speed of delight. Here we help you achieve your money goals fast, like improving your credit scores in a matter of days fast, so you don't have to wait around to see your hard work pay off. Oh, well done. Simply scan your screen to experience Intuit Credit Karma for yourself.
Inhale. My teacher, Yogi Bhajan, said those who hold these teachings will rule the earth for 5,000 years. Unfortunately, it was mostly made up.
Mostly made up. Mostly. We'll be back in a moment. That's one. We'll be back. It takes about 4 to 5 of them. That's one. We'll be back in a moment. It's number 2. We got 2 more. We'll be back, and then it'll be back. I don't know why it does this. I think they messed up on their thing. We'll be back in a moment. Number 3. Alright, and there we go. Actually,
welcome back to CNN's continuing coverage. Donald Trump returns to power. Voters across the country making their voices heard, handing the new president-elect of the United States a very decisive victory over Vice President Kamala Harris and propelling him back to the White House as the 47th president of the United States. We have a key race alert for you right now. Let's take a look at some important states that we're getting new numbers in right now, and let's put them up on the screen over here. Here we go. In Michigan right now, which has 15 electoral votes, Donald Trump is ahead by some almost 83,000 votes. 99% of the vote is in. He has 49.8% to 48.3% for Kamala Harris. He's up by more than 82,000 votes in Michigan. In Arizona, and it's 11 electoral votes, 63% of the estimated vote is in. Trump is ahead 51.9% to 47.2%. Trump has a lead of more than 106,000 votes over Kamala Harris in Arizona, another key battleground state. In Nevada right now, which has 6 electoral votes, 88% of the estimated vote is in. Trump maintains a lead of 51.5% to Kamala Harris, 46.8%. His lead is about 59,000 votes, a little bit more than 59,000 votes over Kamala Harris. We're watching that very, very closely. Let's turn now to the balance of power in the U.S. Congress. Republicans, as you probably know by now, have flipped the U.S. Senate, while control of the House of Representatives still pretty much up for grabs. CNN's chief congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, is following all these developments for us. Tell us the latest, Manu.
Yeah, look, well, if we're looking at the margin, how big of a Republican majority that they'll have in the United States Senate, because each seat is so significant. An additional seat makes it harder for the minority party to get back in the majority in future election cycles. Also makes it easier to pass an agenda, easier to confirm nominees, including to the Supreme Court. So each race is so significant. Right now, Republicans have a 52-42 majority in the Senate. They picked up 3 last night in red states, in West Virginia, in Ohio, in Montana. And right now, they are currently leading in 2 seats that were Democratic seats. Right now, there are 3 other Democratic seats in purple states in Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona. Democrats have the lead in those. But in 2 Democratic seats in other purple states, the Republicans are now leading. Let's look at those states that we can drill down a little further. Nevada. This is a big surprise. Coming into this race, the Democratic incumbent, Jackie Rosen, was viewed pretty good that she had a comfortable lead, according to the public polling. But right now, Sam Brown, an Army veteran, is ahead by 1,190 votes, the narrowest of margins in this race. I've been talking to both sides this morning. They expect this to come down to the wire. There's 88% that are reporting in this race.
Does anybody know how to plug in wind
could
power?
Potentially pick that up. Maybe the Democrats can as well. We'll see what happens there. And in Pennsylvania, a 3-time term incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey, a longtime fixture of Pennsylvania politics, is losing by 48,469 votes to Republican businessman David McCormick. And with 97% of the vote here Republicans are feeling very confident that they can have at least a 53-47 majority in the United States Senate. So do Democrats have any opportunity to have any lever of power in Washington? Let's look at the United States House right now. The Democrats have to pick up 4 seats, a net of 4 seats to be back in power in the U.S. House. Right now, though, Republicans have picked up 5 seats. Democrats have picked up just 2 seats. They need to get 218 to be in the majority. There's still 49 seats that we have not called yet. However, the battleground is so narrow in the U.S. House. There are not that many that are truly at play. And at the moment, Democrats are leading in 5 Republican districts. Perhaps they're confident about some of those seats. But this is a problem for Democrats because Republicans are leading in 3 Democratic districts, which makes the path to get to the net of 4 seats even more difficult. But we are going to be looking very closely in those House districts in New York and the suburbs of New York, and as well as California, some in Arizona as well, some that have not been called yet. But at the moment, Democrats will acknowledge their path to the majority. They can really have run the table to get back into the majority in the House. Republicans are growing very confident that they have the majority. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, putting out a statement this morning saying just that. But even if they do have the majority, well, it is going to be a razor-thin majority once again for the GOP if they manage to hold on to power.
We got lots at stake in that balance of power in the House of Representatives. Manu Raju, thank you very, very much. Still to come, global leaders are now jockeying for meetings with Donald Trump. Stay with CNN. Our special coverage continues right after this short break.
You guys heard it. It just said after a short break, and I was about right. It takes about
Stop rehearsal!
3 to 5
Everyone on their
minutes.
A game. Timber time!
And cut.
I'm
2
doing
words.
chat
No words.
for thumbs
3rd word.
up.
Wow. I just want this to be a good film.
The studio has a woman problem.
I may have done a sexism once, but I've always wanted to make a feminism.
I'm going to get this done if it kills me and everyone involved in this production.
Done it for health and safety, brilliant.
Welcome. Thank you, Health and Safety.
20 thumbs up equals chat. We're stuck on ads right now for 3 minutes.
Amazon
3 minutes
early
of
holiday
ads.
deals are here.
This is our second ad.
With everything you need to kick off the season. Shop Amazon early holiday deals now.
I was like, put a pin in it. We're done. She's gonna make me be my fan.
Worried about leaking when you want to be laughing? It's time to upgrade. Only Always Discreet has a unique dry tech layer that absorbs liquid faster to keep you drier than Depend, so you can laugh harder and stay drier. Up to 0 leaks, 0 odor, and 0 wet feel. We've got you. Always. Always Discreet.
All I want from Santa is to skip the line. Joy, 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 to join the club.
Holiday rom-com, so much magic.
Get your things delivered, missing the end would be tragic.
I need to go shopping, but my kids had too much sugar.
Stay in your car with curbside pickup. Joy, 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 to join the club.
Download the app today for more ways to shop, like curbside pickup and delivery. Terms and restrictions apply. See site for details.
They say you're better safe than sorry. You can't reinvent the wheel. Curiosity killed the cat. They say take the path of least resistance. They say a lot of things. In 1953, they said our whiskey recipe tasted perfectly fine. So we burned it and made it better. Maker's Mark. Make your mark.
12 more minutes. Okay, so this is my last
So when you're inside a role, do you destroy who you are?
No, you're reaching to yourself. You find yourself.
At Macy's, the fragrance destination.
Every weekday morning.
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
Stream CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin for the news you need.
How about this for an earnings call headline?
In 5 minutes or less.
The battle for democracy. You learn something every day.
And the stories you'll want to share.
Oh my God. Lift off. It is awe-inspiring to see it when it happens. Bravo. We're in it together, guys.
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin. Now streaming on Max. Five Good Things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
It's unforgettable. More than incredible.
Are you not entertained?
Incredible. More than incredible.
Watch NBA on TNT. Stream VR Sports on Max.
America, we glad to have y'all back.
Here we go. Here we go. Yay.
Donald Trump's sweeping victory over Kamala Harris carries massive implications both domestically and around the world. The major questions now, how will his win impact the wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East? And how are leaders in those regions reacting to Trump's re-election? I'm joined now by CNN's chief international security correspondent, Nick Payton-Walsh, and CNN's chief global affairs correspondent, Matthew Chance. Matthew, let me start with you. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as we now know, was quick to congratulate his friend Donald Trump on the victory. You have some new reporting, though, that the two have now actually spoken on the phone. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you're right. In the minutes after Donald Trump made his sort of declaration of victory speech, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, sort of posted a message on X, formerly known as Twitter, basically saying this is history's greatest comeback, really congratulating in a gushing way Donald Trump on this election victory. That's been followed up with a phone call. There's been a readout of that over the course of the past few minutes. They had a conversation that was described as warm and cordial. The Prime Minister of Israel congratulated Trump on his election victory, and the two agreed to work together for Israel's security. Now that's key, because in the course of the past year or so, there's been a great deal of tension between the Israeli government and the Biden administration. Figures in Israel thinking that Biden and his vice president, of course, Kamala Harris, has been seeking to sort of hold back Israel's military response to the October the 7th attacks. In contrast, the presidency of Donald Trump, the first term, is remembered fondly here as a time when there were several pro-Israel moves. Trump, of course, moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. He acknowledged or accepted sovereignty of Israel over the Golan Heights, which it captured from Syria back in 1967, and sort of paved the way for a normalization of diplomatic relations between Israel and several Arab states, as well as taking a much harder line against Iran. Israel is anticipating and hoping and expecting there'll be much more of that, at least early on in a Trump presidency. And so that's why there's so much enthusiasm here from Benjamin Netanyahu, from other Israeli officials, and indeed from many Israelis as well. Recent opinion polls before the vote suggested overwhelming support in Israel for a Trump presidency, and that is what, Wolf, they have now got.
And a lot of the Israelis were also very pleased that Trump was so very much involved in what's called the Abraham Accords, Israel's developing relations, permanent relations with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, other countries in the Middle East. That was seen as a huge development for Israel, to be sure. I want to go to Nick right now. Nick, what's the impression about how this very decisive win by Trump will impact potentially the war in Ukraine? And it's getting a little bit more serious right now, as thousands of North Korean troops, we understand, have actually joined the Russian fight against Ukraine.
Yeah, look, I mean, Secretary of State Antony Blinken last week suggested the potential of 8,000 North Korean troops in the Kursk region might get into combat in the days ahead, and there are suggestions that may be occurring right now. But it's one element of bad news for Ukraine across the front lines. Some analysis suggests they've lost the most amount of ground in October that they have pretty much since the start of the war, according to some assessments. And across the east, certainly Russia advancing in strategic ways that, frankly, were very bad news for Kiev, even before Donald Trump swept into victory like we saw last night. Now, Trump has been very clear that he thinks he could end the war in 24 hours. He hasn't said how. He's referred to President Volodymyr Zelensky as an extraordinary salesman who seems to get $100 billion each time he goes essentially to Congress. I paraphrase there. And expressed, I think it's fair to say, skepticism amongst the ranks of those around him too, of the need to continue funding Ukraine's defense from Russian invasion with the same extent, the same $60 billion, the same $100 million we hear, frankly, every week that's come from the Biden administration. Now, I think we've seen today from Zelensky's team a definite bid to try and reach out to the strongman part of Donald Trump. Volodymyr Zelensky saying in a tweet on X.com that the Trump policy of peace through strength is something that could potentially bring a just peace closer towards Ukraine. I think trying to hope that Trump's desire to be seen as an authoritative leader, somebody who can set US policy, is not at the same time going to want to appear to push Ukraine towards ceding territory and negotiated settlements at the table. But bear in mind, Wolf, Donald Trump has been at pains in his first term to not upset, for reasons no one's really been able to understand, Vladimir Putin. And so I think it's pretty clear too that his relationship with Volodymyr Zelensky, a man in his first term who telephone transcripts suggested he tried to pressure to investigate the Biden family, their relationship has been fraught in the past. It may well continue to be fraught. Zelensky today in his tweet suggested that they'd had a very good meeting in September and that the victory plan had been something they discussed. But we're into a very perilous time here for Ukraine, even before Trump's victory. Russia ascendantly on the march, strategically gaining, with North Korean troops now to potentially play with, and now somebody in the White House in a matter of months who is likely to slow down, if not entirely stop, the aid that has been so vital for Ukraine even be able to defend itself. So I think we're looking for an extraordinary few months ahead of stark change in that long-running conflict, Wolf.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, and we're all waiting to see who Trump names as Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, CIA Director. These are all critically important national security positions. We'll see who Trump picks for these important positions. Nick Payton-Walsh, thank you. Matthew Chance, thank you to you as well. And stay with CNN. Aides in the Harris campaign say they're in a state of shock right now, as Donald Trump is now the president-elect of the United States. Our special coverage, Election Day in America Continued, is back after this short break.
We're gonna get the body moving. You're gonna love it!
Pull it up. Now go!
Go!
Pull it. Let's pumpkin me. It's a new beginning. We're gonna have fun today. How? We're gonna manifest it. Manifest!
I didn't
Yes!
the whole time.
Manifest! Shut up!
Amazon early holiday deals are here.
Woo! Woo!
With everything you need to kick off the season. Shop Amazon early holiday deals now.
By the way, Ali G
Say you're looking for the perfect present. Head to the perfect place. A place with gifts that light up a face as well as a room. Where it's easy to find the brands they'll love and the advice you trust. That place isn't a warehouse store. That place is your local Ace. Around the block, what you need in stock. With service so good it's guaranteed. This Christmas, get free.
By the way, I'm gonna put this warning up once during this whole feed. If somebody mentions fentanyl or meth or any of that hard drug stuff, I will be just removing the comment. It's ridiculous that you'd even talk like that. Alright, I'm gonna continue.
Delivery on your new grill at Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks. All I want from Santa is to skip the line. Joy, 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 to join the club.
Holiday rom-com, so much magic.
Get your things delivered, missing the end would be tragic.
I need to go shopping, but my kids had too much sugar.
Stay in your car with curbside pickup. Joy, 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 to join the club.
Download the app today for more ways to shop, like curbside pickup and delivery. Terms and restrictions apply. See site for details.
So when you're inside a role, do you destroy who you are?
No, you're reaching to yourself. You find yourself.
At Macy's, the fragrance destination.
I didn't have to spend my life trying to find my calling. Mine found me at an early age.
At Ram, our calling is to build trucks. So when you find your call, nothing can stop you from answering it.
Alright guys, it's time to cut my hair.
They say you're better safe than sorry.
That's a wrap.
You can't reinvent the wheel. Curiosity killed the cat. They say you take the path of least resistance. Well enough alone. They say a lot of things. In 1953, they said our whiskey recipe tasted perfectly fine. So we burned it and made it better. Maker's Mark. Make your mark.
Grief isn't talked about much, but that's what my podcast is all about. Join me and my guests for a new season with new conversations about loss, life, and love.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
Of course, I get it on the phone.
Hello, I'm Wolf Blitzer alongside Aaron Burnett. I want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world. We're just hours away from Vice President Kamala Harris addressing the nation after President-elect Donald Trump reached the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House. This CNN special coverage of Election Day in America continues.
Joe Biden out in the wheelchair. Here you go, Joe. I'll put you out in the wheelchair.
Donald Trump makes history, winning a second term. We have learned that Kamala Harris has actually now reached out to President-elect Trump, and she will speak publicly at 4 p.m. Eastern. More on that coming up in just a few moments. The Republicans have also seized control of the U.S. Senate for the first time in 4 years. The House of Representatives is still too close to call. Let's take a look at the numbers that we're seeing right now. You can see in the U.S. Senate right now, 52 Republicans, 42 Democrats, 6 seats remaining outstanding, 3 Republican pickups in the Senate, as you can see right there. In the House of Representatives, you need 218 to control the House. Right now, the Republicans have 204, the Democrats 182. Democrats have 2 pickups, the Republicans so far 5 pickups, 49 seats remaining undeclared so far in the U.S. House of Representatives. There are also several battleground states still uncalled. Stand by for a key race alert right now. All right, let's take a look at some of these states where we still haven't made a projection. In Michigan right now, 15 electoral votes, 99% of the estimated vote is in. Donald Trump maintains a lead, 49.8% to 48.3%. His lead is a little bit more than 83,000 votes in Michigan right now. In Arizona, another key state, 11 electoral votes, 63% of the estimated vote is in. Trump has 51.9%, Kamala Harris 47.2%. He has a lead of a little bit more than 100,000 votes over Kamala Harris in Arizona. In Nevada, where the 89% of the estimated vote is in, Trump maintains the lead, 51.7% to 46.6%. His lead is almost 65,000 votes in Nevada with its 6 electoral votes. I want to start our coverage right now this hour with CNN's Kristen Holmes. She's over at Trump campaign headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida, not far from Mar-a-Lago. Kristen, you have some new reporting about Trump allies pitching themselves for key roles. What more are you learning?
Yeah, well, if this transition is already in full effect, some of the members of the campaign got a transition email last night outlining what exactly this would look like. And as we know, that campaign has already set up a transition office that has been operating independently for the last several months. Now, the big thing is who is going to do what in a Trump administration. And even at 4 in the morning yesterday, I started getting text messages from advisors, allies, donors, all asking what I was hearing about potential names being floated around for those administration jobs. And you can bet that the knives are already out. This isn't just the campaign. We're talking about the larger Trump orbit. We know that people are jockeying for specific jobs, and they're eager to prove their loyalty, if not just to Donald Trump, to those who are closest to him, meaning people like Susie Wiles, who ran this campaign, people in Donald Trump's inner circle, to show that they were not only loyal to him, but that they would be loyal to him in an administration, something we know is going to be incredibly important to the former president. Now, he himself has said for the last several months, and particularly the last several weeks, that he didn't want to have any transition conversations. That doesn't mean that at dinners he hadn't floated certain people's names for certain positions, but that's just what Donald Trump does. His superstition told him not to get out there and try to plan an administration. But obviously all of that part of this is coming to an end as this transition has really already started kicking up its pace, and they are on track to a Trump administration.
All right, Kristen Holmes in West Palm Beach over at Trump campaign headquarters, not far from Mar-a-Lago, which is in Palm Beach, Florida. We'll get back to you. Stand by. I want to get to our panel right now. We have an excellent panel. And MJ, you're our senior White House correspondent. You're getting some new information about the Harris call that's about to be made or has already been made?
Yeah, well, we do know that Kamala Harris will be at some point reaching out to Donald Trump to formally concede. That we expect to happen before the vice president actually publicly addresses the American people. We've yet to hear from her. She didn't appear at her own election night party last night. You know, this goes without saying, this has been a very tough night, a very tough morning for Democrats in the Harris campaign. I think there is the shock element to this, even though a lot of folks thought that this could be a very close race. I think a lot of folks did not expect sort of the scope of her defeat. And then there's just the sense of dread that this is only just the beginning. They are now anticipating everything that could come from another 4 years of Donald Trump at the White House. And I am told that there was a campaign call featuring the senior-most people on the Harris campaign. Usually this is led by the campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon. I'm told by one participant that it was filled with tears. They were trying to be supportive to everyone on the campaign. And there was an acknowledgement, I am told, of everything that the campaign had gone through and sort of the unusual nature, of course, of this campaign, it having been so truncated. This is something that I think we will be talking about a lot. One senior advisor I was talking to earlier in the day said the Harris campaign ended up being, in their view, the the Biden campaign with Harris at the top of the ticket. It was essentially the Biden campaign just with new posters. As we are looking at the results of last night and processing everything, it is very, very clear that this was such a repudiation of the last 4 years of Joe Biden. And I think a lot of Democrats are wondering, did the Harris campaign do enough to really separate herself from the Biden administration? And will that have even made a difference in the end if she had gone that path?
Lots of questions that still need to be answered. Thank you very much, MJ Lee. Mark Preston, good to have you here with our panel as well. As you know, the Democratic Party, they have a lot of questions that they have to answer. Where does the Democratic Party go from here? And does Kamala Harris have a big role in the Democratic Party next go around? What are you knowing? What are you hearing? What do you know?
Well, right now she has the most important role for the Democratic Party over the next couple of hours, because how she gets out of this race in a way that is congenial and is, talks about the transition of power is going to be very important, given that Democrats have put so much into that they didn't think President Trump would abide by it had he lost. Here's the reality right now for the Democratic Party. There is no true leader for the Democratic Party. And if you look at across the board who is the leader for the party, you would have to say it would be Chuck Schumer. I think that our friend Manu can talk even more to that about what his power will be. But if you assume now, if we're assuming that Republicans take control of the House, they will control the House, the Senate, the White House, the Supreme Court in 4 years to put another conservative on the Supreme Court. So the Democratic Party right now, they can do all the backstabbing and the knifing as we always see in a campaign. But the reality is they better get their act together, and they better get it together quick, because right now they are going to get steamrolled by Republicans.
Yeah, and Mano's going to be a busy guy covering Capitol Hill for us. I want you and our viewers to listen to what Senator Mitch McConnell just said as the Republicans clearly take back the Senate. Listen to this.
This shift to a Republican Senate majority helps control the guardrails to keep people who want to change the rules in order to achieve something they think is worthwhile is not successful. And so I think the filibuster's very secure.
Worth noting, Mitch McConnell is going to give up his role in the Senate. So give us your analysis.
I mean, that was actually a significant point. He's been saying that for some time. Of course, the filibuster is something that requires legislation to be advanced by 60 votes. Most bills have to be passed by 60 votes to avoid the filibuster. That will be a problem for Republicans coming in, because they're going to have, they have the majority, they can confirm nominees by a simple majority, they can confirm some of the Supreme Court by 51 votes. Getting most legislation through will require getting some Democratic support to surpass the 60-vote threshold. We're looking at probably 52, maybe 53, 47 Senate. We'll see how that ultimately plays out. But it also just underscores the challenges in governing. Even though it will be one-party rule, they can pass their agenda. Mark is absolutely right. However, in the House, while the Democrats have a complicated path to flip the House majority could also be narrow once again for Speaker Mike Johnson. We saw the troubles that he had with the razor-thin House majority, so it will not be easy. The one-party rule can be very complicated as well, and for Mitch McConnell, who is stepping aside, that's going to be a challenge for the next Republican leader. It could be Senator John Thune, the number 2 currently, Senator John Cornyn, a former number 2. He's someone who is, those two are seen as the leading contenders. Rick Scott, the Florida Republican, seen as a long-shot candidate. That race next week, so essential to the person who may advance the Trump agenda.
And we'll see what happens on that front. Mano, as I said, you're going to be a busy guy, as we all know. Everybody stand by. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on, the balance of power in Congress. Joining us now, Republican Congressman Mike Lawler of New York, who just secured his re-election win big time last night. Congressman Lawler, thanks very much for joining us. Congratulations on your win. Let's talk a little bit about what's being called a very impressive, decisive win. A very decisive win for President-elect Trump right now. Give us your immediate reaction, why you think he did so well.
Well, when he won back in 2016, he won by 80,000 votes in 3 states. And when he lost in 2020, he lost by 40,000 votes in 3 states. Obviously, we're a deeply divided country, but That was a big win last night. And when all the votes are counted, he will not only have won all the swing states, he will have won the popular vote. And I think voters are fed up across the country with the politics, the personalities, the nonstop focus on what divides us, and they are more focused 100%. On the substance of the issues impacting their families, from the affordability crisis to the crisis at our southern border to the international crisis. Over 70% of Americans said the country was headed in the wrong direction. The reason I won last night in a 2-to-1 Democratic district that has 85,000 more Democrats than Republicans and won convincingly by over 25,000 votes in a 7-point margin. And when all the votes are counted, Donald Trump may have won my district despite losing it by 10 points last year, or 4 years ago, is precisely because of the issues. People cannot afford to pay their bills, their grocery bills, their energy bills, their housing bills. The average mortgage cost in my district went up $1,000 a month over the last year. People are struggling. You look at the migrant crisis, over 10.5 million migrants flooding into the United States. New York State spending billions of dollars of taxpayer money to provide free housing, free clothing, free food, free health care. The illegal immigrants. People are tired of it, and I think Donald Trump has a mandate to govern, to address the issues on the economy, on the border, on public safety, and the international crises around the globe. And it looks as though not only are we going to keep the House, but obviously have flipped the Senate.
I personally did not vote.
You're pretty convinced you're going to keep the House of Representatives?
I didn't have
Is that what you're saying?
If I could have voted,
yes, I think when you look at the pickups in Pennsylvania and Michigan, that will offset the 3 seats we lost in New York.
Okay, how about this? There's 9 people in chat, and there's only about 2 people in the chat that are saying turn it off. I would have to have everybody in the chat say they want to see it. Or not see it, but hear it. See, now we don't have any background sound. I can't play music. If I play music, then I get in trouble. Then I get copyright strikes. I might lose all my other likes just for 1 thumbs up. I like Joe Bamba. My favorite song for Joe Biden is Bing Bong. Well, that's why I stopped it. I stopped it because nobody said anything. I'm waiting for everybody to say they want the news. And now I'm actually going to fall behind on that. So I guess I could just fast forward it all the way to the most recent. Oh, I've already passed the 2-hour mark anyways. But I don't know how many subs I have right now because I can't get off of my live stream and see how many people have subscribed. But I really hope a lot of people have. I kind of overdid my whole video viewing or posting the other day, and I got subscriber burn. $275. I got 10 people. 10 people today. So that's 10 people that subscribed today. That's not bad. Or 9. I was at 266 or 264. I appreciate it. Thank you, Big Slime. But I do think I do want to get off of here and wash this stuff out of my hair because it's not good for it and it's been in there long enough. But I'll do the unicorn one more time, but I'm gonna do unicorn fish. You guys are gonna get unicorn fish. Right? We go unicorn. Yeah, well, Joe Biden and Diddy are brothers. Joe Biden and Diddy are related. Unicorn fish. Unicorn fish. Unicorn fish. Wah. Wah. You know how are we doing it? Yeah. Yeah. This is what Diddy likes. Diddy likes it this way. Diddy be doing it this way right there. Hey Diddy, how you doing, Diddy? Hey, what's up, Diddy? Hey Diddy, what's up, Diddy? How many thumbs up are gonna be took away before the end of the video? Whee! Can you guys just stay more mature in the chat, please? I'm not trying to fall into that realm of getting my stuff pulled. I'm trying to build my channel. Hey guys, I use the spork for cutting things. My spork's my favorite cutting utensil. A Illuminati, Doja Cat, Ice Spice. Alright, I gotta get off of here and get this stuff out of my head. I hope you guys have a good one. Put your thumbs up back. Don't take away your thumbs up. The thumbs up are supposed to stay. No? Cheap? Cheap? I've been on here for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I gotta go. I don't want to go, but I have to. I have to live a normal life outside of my YouTubing. I appreciate the thumbs ups. I'll put my horns back. My name is Haku. I will get you, Samurai Jack. Does anybody know Samurai Jack? Oh, come on. You guys gotta know Samurai Jack. 90s cartoon. Really good. Good story. I felt like they could have continued the whole story. Well, I gotta go. I hope you guys had a good one. I was just doing a whole playing around with the live stream and yeah, breaking my subscriber burn because I posted too many of my shorts. So check out my channel if you haven't. I have a bunch of different videos. I play Pokemon Go if you guys play Pokemon Go. And I hope you guys have a great day.